अच्छा ठीक. But I can't pay you for that's a typical case. You apply. I'll look into it how to handle it.
So actually, in our company, we have around 30 Indian patents and have filed around 10 international. And I saw the ad in Economic Times, so that I'm asking whether we are eligible.
No, you are eligible, but there's no question. We'll take a special waiver if it is possible to. I'll take a. I am not a legal expert. Is it possible to do it?
He can file directly an Indian patent application as he has done. He can do directly a PCT filing also. He can defend his case with the PCT authorities and with the Indian Patent Office. The challenge would be that he look at other geographies beyond India and the PCT. So that's where he needs.
So you can do it in any geography.
Yeah.
That's.
We can support it.
Go ahead.
I'm not defending. Say because
No, it's a,
when a product development company, we don't have much money
to. It's a specific problem, na?
Yeah.
It's a specific problem. You are the first one to tell me, so I have to find an answer to it. Now the problem is mine.
Say when litigation comes, we have one more advantage. All this patent, I take only 1 minute. These patent lawyers across the globe, they keep on watching the published patents in the international. Then they know the address. They'll start communicating with you. They'll tell, hey guy, hey, I am so and so. I will handle your case. We'll work on percentage. You need not to pay me any fees.
Okay.
From India, can we get that? Dr. Garg, you said that ICT-IPR.in, this is only for the international, or you have a similar site for the domestic filing?
I didn't get you.
For the domestic filing, like what we are discussing now, do you have any website for guidance, assistance?
But guidance is there. Guidance that this website is for everything.
For everything.
But the reimbursement is for only
No,
for
reimbursement you are not talking, just for guidance.
Guidance is there.
Guidance,
prior art search, that is for everyone.
Okay.
Whether you file it or not, that is still there.
Okay.
Just tell him to come to the portico. Any more of you will file it, but only file it if it is of strategic importance to it. And don't file it for the sake of filing. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We'll now directly proceed to the final session of today's event, patent filing procedures and strategies. I would like to invite the Formulate IP team for this event. Now, as Dr. Garg was suggesting, we have a team of a lawyer, an engineer, and a manager. So I'm sure the information which you're going to get will be from different domains. Formulate IP is an end-to-end IP solutions company providing services which include patent drafting, filings, and patent consulting across the globe. I would request Mr. Rakesh Prabhu, Mr. Arun Venkata Subramaniam, and Ms. Shruti to come on stage. Mr. Rakesh Prabhu is a registered patent agent before the Indian Patent Office. Mr. Rakesh has several years of experience in handling and advising on matters relating to IP laws. Shruti is the Senior Patent Manager at Formulate IP. She's an expert on the patent procedures and regulations in India. Arun is the Senior Patent Consultant at Formulate IP and an electrical engineer with a master's degree in robotics from Royal Institute of Technology, Sweden. Thank you.
Good afternoon. After Garg sir's discussion, for any patent attorney to come on dais is pretty challenging, so we try to do our best. There was actually a suggestion on what about only patents but not about trademarks, designs, or copyrights. Yeah, you're right, very much. In fact, patent happens to be only one of the intellectual property rights what is being looked at for the purpose of commercialization, and apart from patents you have copyrights, trademarks, designs, which together forms a component of IP portfolio for any company as such. So as we all know, patent document is a very technical, techno-legal document which involves procedures for filing at various steps, various stages, and typically a process is being set up in any company to file a patent application within the organization, and the inventors are participating at a level where they can contribute their inventions by filling up the invention disclosure document as such. As such, patent itself is a very technical and a very time-driven process as such. So if you see the entire process of filing and getting a patent grant, unlike trademarks and copyrights, patent is a statutory right. It is a right what is granted to us by the Patents Office. So earlier in the conversation, we had a discussion with Mr. Murthy and with Mr. Senthil, wherein you don't have actually a right or a patent right until you really get a grant. So the main difference between trademarks, copyrights and patents is trademarks, copyrights are also governed by the common law rights. That is, you actually can start using it and then claim protection over a period of time. On the other hand, patent is something which you need to go to the Patents Office, file the patent application, and only then you can actually tell that you actually have filed for a patent. And until you get a patent grant, you're really not a patent owner as such, unlike trademarks or copyrights. So I will share the mic with Arun, who can actually give some perspective on the technical side of the process, what is being followed, and following with Mrs. Shruti.
Thank you, Rakesh sir. So I was in R&D for more than 5 years, and only after that I kind of understood that IP is quite important if you are into R&D and if you are an engineer. So there are actually various aspects onto it, like how you could apply for a patent, what are the different options, you know, that you have. So it's not like just, okay, I have some idea and here I go, apply for a patent and it's done. Because you can't apply for a, if you are only having an idea, you can't apply for a patent. You have to show how you are going to implement that certain idea, in what way, and the most important thing in an application when you apply for a patent are going to be the claims. So you actually say, I hereby claim something. Say for example, I hereby claim a way of automating these lights in the room, seeing if there is anybody in the room or not. So it has some hardware component onto it. It has the lamps, it has some, maybe some kind of a Zigbee sensor, whatever. And then you also have how you are going to put all the hardware together and arrive at the implementation of that idea. So you will be applying for a patent for that method of doing that. Now in order to do that, there are 3 important things that you have to, that your idea must have if you want to obtain a patent grant. Number 1, the idea must be new. So you should be the first one to do this kind of an implementation in this manner. And number 2, the idea has to have some kind of application. That is, it has to solve some issue which is already there in that space. In this example, I don't have to go and switch on the light and off the light. It's automatic. So that is the issue that this invention would be solving. Another thing, this is I think the most important thing is your idea should not be obvious. Now this obviousness thing is what most ideas have to overcome almost each time, because how do you say some idea is obvious or not, right? So let's say you are a electrical engineer. I am also an electrical engineer, and if you say, guess what, I have like this, I have like this method of doing it. If I say I know that method, right, I am not implementing it, that doesn't mean I do not know how that works. Then it means that idea is obvious. If I say that, oh, how do you do that? So if as an engineer who is also in the same field, if I have to ask you how it is done, and only after you explaining it to me I could go and implement that idea, then that idea is not obvious. Now this is exactly where the importance of an engineer comes into the IP structure. Because when you approach me and say, I have this idea, it's new, nobody else has done it, so I would ask you, okay, explain it to me. So you would explain how it works, and only if I am convinced that, yeah, this idea is new, I would say, okay, you know what, let's go apply for a patent and I will help you do it. If I feel that this idea is already there, or if I know that I know this method, then it is very, very obvious, right? So then we would say that you don't have to file for it because it's quite obvious. You may have to do some more R&D onto this and ensure that this idea is not obvious to anybody. Come up with some amount of uniqueness, if you could say. So all these are the things that you upfront have to look into. Another thing is agreements. So I guess some of you are entrepreneurs here, some of you are employees in some other firms. So if you are an entrepreneur, then you have to establish certain rules when it comes to who owns the IP in your firm. Let us say you have an employee, he is working on, let's say you are a embedded systems company, right? So let's say he is working on a new chip. So he may have some of his own ideas which he may be putting onto that chip. Now you need to establish that whatever ideas that he's putting onto the chip, who owns that? If the IP is going to be owned by the firm or if it is going to be owned by the employee himself. So all these things have to be there explicitly stated in the employee agreement as well. Please feel free to join in case if there are any, some of the legal stuff. So these are things that needs to go into the employment agreement as well. Another thing is when you have MOUs that you sign with maybe other firms or academic institutions, over there also IP is always one clause that you will have to look into as to who is going to work on this IP, who owns the IP, who is going to be responsible in case if there is an issue with the IP, and all those things have to be detailedly explained when it comes to the MOU. This is another thing. One more form that is quite important is NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, right? You may be having a client for whom you may be installing some embedded system solution, say for example. Now what is going to stop that guy from just opening up your thing, going through all your circuit and say, now I know how this works, and he could also start just making the same thing as you. So that is where NDAs come into picture, where you have an ironclad NDA or a non-disclosure agreement that you sign with your, again, MOU partners or maybe your customers or clients, establishing that these are the things which only I own. These things are my IP, and for these things you have to pay and use. That's it. You don't have any other, you can't sell that or you can't just make it on your own and all those things. You need to establish when it comes to the NDA. And in case if you are approaching a patent attorney and you want to explain about your idea and say this is the idea for which I want to apply for a patent, these are the things I would like to claim, then you will have to submit a form called invention disclosure document. So invention disclosure document is nothing but it takes your idea, and as I said, an idea merely cannot be converted into IP, right? So you need to extract all those things from the idea for which you want to apply for IP protection. So invention disclosure is a way of highlighting all the points. You need to highlight only all those points which you actually are interested in claiming, but you should include all the different aspects of the same claim. So you should have a very exhaustive IDD, invention disclosure document, when you share information about your patent idea with a patent attorney or engineers. So these are the certain things that I wanted to share.
Sure. In addition to what Arun